This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, episode 61.
I was doing the headline trading and reading up on everything, and I couldn't quite understand it, and so I actually lost quite a bit of money.
This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. And this is your host. He talks about the most random things with strangers on the internet. Weirdo ClayTrader.
Yes, I guess I am a weirdo, but Ches is a weirdo, and there's many weirdos out there, so it's not nearly as bad as what it was. But as a part of the Inner Circle trading community, there is a chat room. So when you really stop and think about it, what it is strangers that meet up in a chat room and then, talk stocks. And it's kind of where, from that perspective, it's okay, whatever. You're meeting together to talk about stocks. But as Ches can attest to, one of the chat rooms we have is called, the quote unquote, the lounge, where you can go and talk about anything within reason. And we've had conversations from diets to, to firearms, to guns, to real estate. You chime in here anytime you want, Ches. What are some other the random things that we've talked about to strangers on the internet?
Craft beers and liquors. I mean, I don't even know.
Games,
hiking, mountain biking, you name it. We go through a lot of stuff in that room.
Yeah, so I literally have talked about the most random things ever. Now, we don't allow politics or religion into it just because that can open up cans of worms. But outside of that, the lounge, I've learned stuff about video games and, like I said, computers and you name it, we've probably talked about it. So it's crazy. But yeah, I proudly own the fact that I do on a pretty much daily basis talk about random things with people that I met on the internet. But at least we've met some of them in person now. We've done, at the time of this recording, 2 meet and greets where we go to different cities. We've gone to Baltimore and gone to Chicago to meet up with members. So it's not quite as weird because now I can say, oh, yeah, I've actually met you in person. I've actually, shook your hand. But yeah, there's still a lot of people that we haven't met. So it's just strangers on the internet hanging out. So if you think that weirdness sounds fun, then hey, check out the group. You might find it entertaining. So hey, Ches, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. It's going to be a scorcher here, so I'm buckling down, trying to keep cool.
I think that's the first time I've ever asked you how you're doing. Have you realized
I think that is the first time. What if my response was, I'm doing horrible, Clay? I've been doing horrible for the past year. I really need your help. What if all it took was that question and you waited an entire year to ask it?
If you really needed help, I would just tell you that I'll send you some mind shares. And
I know. They're already in the mail.
They'll be there. They'll be there tomorrow, okay? Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Just trust me on this one. All right. Well, today we have a flying good interview. I don't think that's a saying, but I had to create some sort of pun for myself. But today we talked to Micah, and he is actually a helicopter pilot, and as we'll discuss in the interview. But I won't reveal it right now, but we learned something about Micah right at the beginning that really created a genuine effect to this whole interview. And Ches and I were kind of like, okay, this will get very interesting then. So I won't ruin that right now, and you'll hear about it just in the next few minutes after the introduction. But it really did create an interesting interview, and one where we actually he struggled a little bit in the month of March. So Ches and I kind of put on our caps and asked him questions, and we narrowed down and nailed what his problem was. And it actually turns out to be a problem that many people have, which is why, to be honest, it wasn't that hard to figure out. So hopefully he'll learn from it. And he's in a good spot, though, because March wasn't as good as he wanted to, and he still had a green month, which was good. But so there's kind of some real-time mentoring going on here, some real-time detective work, which does create a huge learning opportunity and just a great real-life learning example, because it's something that will bite you if you allow it. So without further ado, let's talk to Micah. Hey, Micah, welcome to the show.
How's it going?
It's going pretty well. We were discussing, I guess, pre-production, whatever you want to call it, the time that we just talked before we start recording. And one of the questions I always ask is, hey, have you listened to any of the past podcasts? And, oh, yeah, I've listened to them all. Some people, oh, yeah, I've listened to several. Oh, yeah, I've listened to a couple. Micah, nope, I haven't listened to anything. So this is totally going to be, he's going to be flying solo here. He has no idea, and he's a pilot. So you're going to learn that was a really good pun on my part as listeners. So you're going to come back and say, Clay, that was a good one. But Micah is flying solo, and we're gonna just kind of see what happens. I mean, Ches, this is a first, right? Other than our first couple podcast guests, I mean, I don't think we've ever had anybody that's straight up said, "Hey,
This is a Yeah, this is a first, and every time we ask people out there in the community if they want to be a guest and they've listened to 50 episodes and they say, "Oh, I'm scared." Micah's literally here, never listened to one of these, and he's completely on board, and like you said, he's ready to shoot from the hip. So I got to commend him for that right away.
I didn't think of that, Ches. That's true. So if you're community members, if you're out there and you have listened to them all, and I'm scared, you should know you have nothing. If anybody should be scared, it should be Micah, who has never listened to any of these before. So yeah. Your bravery is commended, Micah. So thank you very much. Are you ready to start the flying? You ready to start the fly solo here?
Yeah, let's hammer this out.
All right, excellent. We just learned that you're out in like the Nevada desert somewhere. I think you're in Area 51. Is that what you said? But anyways,
we're close to it. Yeah,
close to it. I hope you don't have to kill me after that. Did I just reveal some top secret location? Anyways, we're getting way off topic. Well, Micah, the first question we normally ask people is, let's just start at the beginning of your journey. What got you interested in the market? How did you hear about the market? And then what kind of pushed you over the edge in terms of wanting to actually start to get more active and start to put money on the line?
So back a couple months ago, I just kind of got the idea that I wanted to get involved with the market. I kind of guess I always did, but I had some friends that did pretty good with it, especially on the day trading side. And I think theirs was more luck than anything. I mean, they never took any classes or anything. And so, yeah, I was up in Wright, Wyoming doing flying a contract up there, and I was doing pretty good. Put some money into a brokerage account, and it did all right. And then of course January came, and everything started going to hell in a handbasket. I had no idea why. I mean, I was doing the headline trading and reading up on everything, and I couldn't quite understand it, and so I actually lost quite a bit of money. But
well, let's dissect this a little bit more. So you had friends that were day trading and they told you that they were doing well, and then you thought, hey, that looks interesting, so you started to research the markets a little bit from that point. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, pretty much. I had just bought into 3 natural gas wells out in California, and so I was, oh man, natural gas, it's gonna go, it's at the bottom of its lull, and winter's here and this and that. And so I was pretty heavily positioned in the natural gas market.
But not through the market. You were physically buying natural gas wells. Did I understand that right?
Shares of wells, yeah.
Oh, shares of wells. Okay. But I mean, you weren't like buying stocks or ETFs. You were buying portions of physical wells. So you're getting kind of almost like a commodity then? Is that kind of?
Kinda, but then I started getting involved in the UGAS future.
Okay.
And that's where I came across you and all your stuff, and that would have been in February after UGAS completely tanked. I watched the YouTube thing, and you can tell it looked like it wanted to bounce there for a while, and it had a pretty good run, up to almost $4 in the middle of February, and then it just dumped. And everything was great while it was good, and then it went overboard, and I couldn't understand what had happened. And I was doing as much research as I could on it, and that's where I came across the YouTube videos with you doing the technical analysis on the chart. And I was like, man, why is he doing this? Well, what motivation do you have to do a technical analysis on a chart, and to try and help people out? I mean, so I was pretty selfless on your behalf.
But you sound like you're pretty skeptical at the forefront.
I was a little skeptical, but you came out with a new technical analysis almost daily, and I'm sitting here like, well, this guy's really puts in a lot of time and effort to try and help people out. And so I went and I checked out your website and checked out all your videos, that you have, the free ones on your website and YouTube. And I actually watched every single one of them. And then I was like, all right, this makes a lot of sense. And so then I paid the money up front and haven't really looked back since.
So let's kind of backtrack a little bit here. So who'd you open up your first brokerage account with?
So my first one was with USAA, and that turned out to be a complete disaster. There
So
was
let's talk about this in detail because I think our viewership is a bunch of sick people, myself included, because I like to hear about disasters in detail. So let's dive into what did you do, why did you do it, and how did it turn out to be such a disaster?
Oh man. Okay, so USA, I opened the brokerage account, think I'm this great, investor. All of a sudden, I'm going to start trading and make all sorts of money. Yeah, right. So first off, there's no charts on it. You can't look up anything. I think they got some shoddy
They
line
probably have a line
charts.
on close. Yeah, I'm sure they
Yeah.
got that there somewhere tucked away.
Yeah, and then they've got their list of their hot stocks, which I totally fell for. Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
were they defining hot stocks? Like just ones with the most volume, or
oh,
Pete over in accounting said this look good this week. Let's just throw
it
these
was
up on the
it
website.
was Pete over in accounting throwing darts, man. Because I'm telling you, I looked at that stuff. Now I go back, I'm like, none of them had any volume or price action. There was nothing going on. I have no idea why people buy that garbage. But anyways, I was one of those people. So I bought into a bunch of that stuff, and some of it made me some money, but most of it didn't. But then what caught me is USAA has this thing set up where it's super confusing when you set up your brokerage account. And I got caught up with somehow on my account, they were taking additional money out. So whether I made money or lost money, they were taxing it. And so they taxed me over $10,000 on losses. And so, I mean, talk about a double whammy for a setback. It was horrible.
wait, how are you being taxed on losses?
They had set up my account for additional withholdings.
Okay.
And so I'm, I'd sell out of a stock, and then 4 or 5 days later, the IRS would come and just, with their hands wide open, and I'm sitting there, what the heck is going on? And so as soon as I figured out what was going on and got that under control, I pretty much immediately closed that account. I'm like, you guys are horrible. Like they're a good insurance company and they're good for banking, but they are not good for investing and trading.
It sounds like Clay's initial trading with his
Yeah.
regional bank paying $60 a trip each way.
Yep. I was gonna bring that up. Like, I know how you feel, Micah, because that was my first thing with my Fifth Third Bank. It was, and yeah, I thought I made a good profit until I figured that my total commission was $60 because $30 to buy, $30 to sell. So I feel you there a little bit, but not to the amount of $10,000. So I mean, what were you buying? Just household names, or were you buying penny stocks? What exactly were you buying during these first moments of opening up this account?
Well, so I had a pretty big position in UGas because I thought natural gas was the next big thing. And then I had bought into the TVIX, the velocity index. I was like, oh, great. This thing's skyrocketing. I'm going to get into that. And I made probably $5,000 off of it. And then they came and they taxed the damn thing $5,000. So I didn't make any money on it. And, yeah, and then I was invested in a couple others, Aerotech. I'm not quite sure. A couple bio stocks, or I don't know. I look at them now. I'm like, how did these move? There was no volume on any of them. I don't understand it.
And you were getting these off of the headlines or from your brokerage specifically?
Yeah, off of their hot stocks to trade. They had their list of, these are our biggest. Another one that they got me on was the Goodrich Petroleum. They're like, this is a great stock. It was a penny stock, and that one tanked. I sold out of that. Every time I look at it, I get beads of sweat on my face, just like yeesh.
So it's more than safe to say that these first. And how long did this time period go? I'm going to say it's safe to say that this was not going very well, but how long did all this kind of pain and torture actually go on from kind of a calendar perspective? Was this a few weeks, a few months?
This is about a month and a half when I finally got out of everything and got all the additional withholdings squared away. It was about a month and a half, but it was about middle of January when I had started, maybe end of January when I started taking your classes. And at that point I stopped trading and investing and doing all that and just started paper trading and trying to actually get my life in order and come up with a strategy that works.
So did you have any sort of I'm kind of just slap in the face moment where you said, you know what, I need to invest in some sort of education. I have no idea what I'm doing. At what point was it a certain trade that did that? Was it when you finally sold out of natural gas, or coming to the light moment? Did you have any
I, I
moment
think
like
that
that?
the Goodrich Petroleum was the one where it was a penny stock, and I had lost quite a bit of money on it. And at that point, I was like, all right, I either need to just completely stop this, or I need to start. This money would be better spent on some sort of education.
Do you remember what you happened to buy that penny stock at, and then what you eventually sold it at?
So, yeah, I bought it, I think, at like 23 cents, and it jumped up to 35 cents. And I'm like, oh, cool, it's going up. So I bought a bunch more. Yeah. And then what happened? It dropped to like 6 cents, and I got just spanked.
Okay. So that was a big spank, and at that point, I can see why that would kind of be the final straw that breaks the camel's back. And so you said you came across my videos originally, watching the natural gas videos, and I do remember you hopped into ClayTrader University pretty quick, right? I mean, did you was
Yeah.
that your first purchase? You just jumped both feet in?
Both feet in, bought the full package, let's go. And there was a lot of nights I'd put my daughter to bed, and I'd stay up till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, watching all the classes. I still got, I think, 4 or 5 courses to take, but I got the majority of them down. All the foundation stuff is done now. And
So my next question would be, you invest into the courses, whatever. Are you still trading at that point? I know you said you started to paper trade, but was there any overlap? Because a lot of people, I guess what I'm getting at here is they invest in education, and then they kind of almost use that as like their get out of jail card. Like, well, because I've invested into a course, I can just keep trading. Like, I don't have to put the brakes on anything. And then they keep trading because they've invested in education, and they're trying to do like both at the same time. So did you do any of that? Or did you buy and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, I'm totally done?
No, I put the brakes on it. The only stuff that I had was USAA, just waiting to get the additional withholdings sorted out, which took about a week and a half. And I was like, obviously, the few trades I had, I didn't want to pull out a USAA and then get taxed on them. I was like, I'd rather them go down in value than get screwed on taxes the way that I was getting screwed. So, but yeah, I pretty much stopped all my trading, and then I searched around and found a decent platform, and then just started paper trading on it.
So how long did you paper trade for now? Because a lot of people say they paper traded, and it turns out they paper traded for 10 whole days, and then they dive right back into the market. So how long was it?
I would say it was at least a solid month where I was pretty much committed to paper trading all day long, and that I would get up in the morning, and I'd place my trades, and I'd take my daughter to school, and I'd come back, and if I had forecast that it would go up, and then I would check it out, and it would go up or go down or whatever. Kind of started to come up with a strategy that seemed to work pretty good. Obviously, nothing's perfect. You can't get it every time, but for the most part, it was pretty consistent. And then back in, I want to say that right at the end of February, beginning of March, I decided to start risking some money. Obviously, not nearly as much money as I had initially invested with USA. I think I started with like $6,000 or something like that. And so I was, limited to just swing trading, but doing the technical analysis and just kind of following your guidelines, it seems to work pretty well.
And I also wanted to ask you, what platform specifically did you find, that was better than that little one you had before?
So I'm currently using Options House. I talked to the guys at Lightspeed Trading, and they want a initial deposit of 25,000, and they set me up with their platform to paper trade on for like 2 weeks. And it is just I don't have the computer or everything that I need for that. Like, I'm still just basically a laptop guy because I travel so much. But and their platform's definitely a lot more advanced than Options House. But for me, from a swing trading perspective, Options House seems pretty good. The only thing I wish they had was level 2s, because that definitely kind of kicks me in the butt from time to time.
then again, you are still swing trading though. So I mean, level twos. I mean, they pertain to an extent, but I mean, they're not. If you're doing penny stocks and trying to trade those, then level twos are definitely super important there. So can we talk about your job at all? Like,
Oh
as a,
yeah, absolutely.
okay, so you're a helicopter pilot, and
Yeah.
you're as part of the military then.
So I did about 12 years in the military. I've been out for 4 years though.
Okay, but you're still a helicopter pilot.
Yep.
So how does that all, or how do you fit in even the swing trading? How does this all fitting into? I don't know. You're the first helicopter pilot I think I've ever talked to. So how exactly does this all work from a logistical standpoint of fitting in time to trade and all that sort of stuff? Or do you have like Wi-Fi up in your helicopter and?
Wouldn't that be nice? I'll send you a picture of that. Yeah, no. For the most part, I've kind of my career has taken me to a point where I mostly am involved with training. I train a lot of pilots and manage a lot of our contracts. So with that, I'm able to work from home, and I have a lot of downtime. Like in February, I don't think I even worked a single day, which is fine. I mean, it's still get salary, which is really nice. But in the summer when the fire contract starts, we do a lot of firefighting too. It's going to be very difficult. Like I said, river van trader. I'll be sitting in the back of the helicopter with my hotspot. So, but yeah, in the winter and the slow months, where I'm able to really spend a lot of time and focus on trading.
So when are you doing this focusing on trading? Do you wake up really early, or are you doing this, after you put your daughter? I mean, when exactly are you doing your homework to figure out what sort of chart setups are out there and, kind of constructing your trade plans?
Okay, so like perfect example, I flew into Reno, Nevada yesterday. We drove the 2 hours up to Winnemucca. The time changes. The market opens here at 6:30, whereas in Denver it opens at 7:30. So we got a little bit of a time change. And the week before I was in Florida and it opened at 8:30 down there. So, usually before I go to bed, I spend about an hour to maybe an hour and a half reviewing charts, looking at what, might be potentially a good play for the next day. And then then I usually get up an hour before the market opens. Like this morning I was up at 5:30. I was reviewing the charts, going over everything, trying to see what was going to happen. And yeah, and then once the market kicks off, at out here it was 6:30 this morning. As soon as it opens, I'm usually ready to go. And for swing trading, I've noticed that it works really good if you kind of get in at the end of the day, because it seems like markets kind of calm down, and then in the morning there's this huge rush. It's almost like everybody wants to get in, and so if you think if you forecast, oh hey, we're climbing, things are looking good, it can be a really good position, and you can benefit from that. I've had a few weeks where I've had like $5,000 days just from swing trading that way. And I think back when I was down in Florida last week, I bought into some options in Conoco, and I think I was, all told, I only had my money on the line for 19 minutes in the market, even though I bought it maybe in the last 2 minutes that the market was open, and I sold it right away in the morning, and it made me quite a bit of money.
Yeah, so obviously, an important thing for making money is, not chasing generally. Don't get me wrong, you can make money chasing, but at the same time, being well positioned and, kind of sometimes even being a little bit early to the party is definitely a great way to make money. So I kind of wanted to ask, so what specifically are you focusing on for what you're scanning or looking for the next day? Do you have, are you running scans in FinViz? Are you focusing strictly on oil things? Are you watching, natural gas futures? What specific criteria do you have for kind of finding what you're going to trade?
So with everything that's come up, I actually have kind of put together a small list of stocks that are, not a lot, but they've got a lot of volume and a lot of price action. And so those are, I kind of focus on like a handful, maybe 20 stocks. And some of them are oil, some of them, everybody's into Apple and Facebook, and Home Depot's been a pretty good one, and Boeing has been a decent one. But I look at the candlesticks and the indicators, and it's like, okay, You look at so like I noticed yesterday Apple right up against the 200 SMA, and today it's getting spanked. So
Are you shocked by that?
not one single bit.
And we'll just leave it at that. If watch this for a plug, Ches. You're going to be proud of me. And I promise me and Mike to not work this out. If you want to know why Micah was not shocked by this, then buy a course. Dun, dun, dun. There we go. All right. Yeah. So nice plug there, Mike. A nice unintentional plug there. Yeah. So, but yeah, good example. So what other ones are you kind of watching? Boeing, Home Depot, Apple, Facebook. Because I know people are going to say, well, what other stocks are part of these 20? So you don't have to list all 20, but I mean, what are a few more that you're paying attention to?
I'm really paying attention to the oil and gas stocks right now. I think just based on what I've seen, with like Anadarko and Halliburton, Conoco, those, it was climbing really well, and then it dropped, and it's had a lot of consolidation, and it looks like it's trying to break back out. I don't know if it's going to be good, like it was before, but I think it's going to move in the green direction in the next probably 2 or 3 days. That's just what it.
Yeah. Now, for you listeners, remember, these are, by the time this airs public, this is going to be weeks later. So don't go and start buying these stocks because, hey, I listened to some podcast by some guy. Yeah. So remember,
I just entered a position, Clay. Why didn't you tell me that 10 seconds ago? Jeez.
Yeah. So you're here live though, Chaz. So at your point in time, it could still work out for you. But if you're listening to this, remember there's a delay. So that's why none of this is stock advice or anything, because you are way late to the party. If you're now taking, go ahead.
I was going to say, in a perfect example of when I thought I was going to do good, Apple made that great climb 2 weeks ago, and then it started to consolidate, and I bought options when it consolidated, and it just was, it was horrible. It didn't go so well. So
wait, did you buy, or let's talk, what exactly did you buy? Why did it go? Because I mean, if it's moving and then it consolidated, I mean, what went wrong with the trade then?
So I bought it when it started to consolidate. I thought it was going to start to climb back up, and then I got spanked on theta on the options, and that's what ended up getting me. So yeah, had I actually bought stock, I would have been all right. But with theta, it just didn't go so well. So it was like, all right, I should have waited till I got that green candle, the confirmation of everything, and then I did, and came back. It would one green candle, and I think the next day it gapped up, and it erased all my losses. It did pretty good, but it seems like that's all kind of part of the learning process too, a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, I had a feeling that theta was going to come up after that question, just because, and this is not an options trading podcast, but for you listeners, all theta means is with options, the longer you hold something, the value slowly goes down over time, because that's just the way the options market is priced and the way everything works. But so, yeah, I mean, you have but it's good to hear that you were able to wipe away that loss, by then going back to the drawing board and then playing Apple again. So instead of taking your ball, going home and saying, I'm never trading Apple again, you just put together another trade plan. So that's always a good step in the right direction. So are you just trading options in terms of buying calls, buying puts, or are you doing some of the advanced strategies, or, how exactly are you using options, I guess would probably be the better question.
So right now I'm just buying calls and buying puts. And I want to take the advanced options classes and paper trade them for a little bit before I commit to any of that stuff, any of the advanced stuff. Because I mean, this is all new to me, and I'm basically just using the basic foundation, the building bricks that are given in the first couple classes, and applying it to options. But it seems to work pretty good.
Yeah, especially the fact that you're coming up on your busy season and stuff. I would highly recommend looking into the advanced option stuff, because I really still, Clay puts it best when he says it's really like swing trading with an edge. And it's one of the things that really kind of turned me into a profitable trader just myself, is I needed to kind of go through that, and kind of that longer term time frame, like you said. Sometimes you could be really into profit. At this, giving it, you're not as likely to suffer from the intraday noise of whipping back and forth. Yeah. But besides that,
can I cut you off here, Chaz?
Go ahead.
Okay, because I'm curious, because you're still obviously, I mean, you're trading with real money. You've done education, and you still have more education to go. But what is something that you would say you kind of really, struggled with when you were first getting started in terms of just not knowing what was going on? And I mean, what are some things, how is that now that you've kind of been doing, that you've been on the path that you're on right now?
So when I first started, it was when things were great, you were on cloud nine, and then when things dumped, you're like, what is going on? And the drama really crept in. And now, it's like you said, you got the whipsaw, the intraday noise or whatever. But if you did the technical analysis and you feel pretty confident that the chart's going to move in one way or another, it's easy to kind of tune that out. And so, yeah, and same thing too. If you're down, it's a lot easier to cut a loss and walk away from it and not get discouraged. And just, hey, it's part of it. You can always come back, but you got to do your homework.
Right. So, I mean, are losses still, I guess you kind of answered it because they don't discourage you anymore, but did they really used to kind of beat you down to the point where, you just, I mean, we've had some people say they've had to lay on the floor. We've had some people say they've cried. We've had other people say they put themselves in timeout. We've had many answers on this, but I mean, how did losses affect you psychologically then? And you kind of already answered how they affect you now. You just understand it's part of the game. But I mean, do you have any tips or tricks on how you've kind of crossed that hurdle? Because it is a big mental hurdle when it comes to, just losing, being wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, before there was definitely some times where I wanted to cry. The old lady was pretty frustrated. She was not excited about some of the decisions, which could stop most people in their tracks. Okay, I got it. We're done. But yeah, now it's just like robotic trading. You're like, okay, cool. I'll cut my losses. I'll look at it again, and maybe this chart's just not doing what it's supposed to do. Perfect example is the oil stocks. I mean, you look at where they're at right now, and they're kind of moving sideways, not doing anything, and so it's kind of discouraging. And if you were going to try to buy at the bottom because you thought it was going to go back up and it's not doing anything, yeah, you could easily get beat up by it. But right now, I'm not buying them. I'm waiting for them to start climbing again, and then I'll get back in.
Which tells me you've learned from your Apple mistake, because I remember you made a comment, I should have waited for some sort of confirmation candle on Apple. So yep. I think that's what you just said here, is you're waiting for some sort of confirmation now on oil before hopping back in. So I would say that it's official. You have certainly learned from that Apple mistake or Apple mishap, whatever you want to call it. Learning experience. There we go. We'll call it your Apple learning experience. So do you trade stocks at all, or are you just all doing options right now?
I've pretty much stopped doing stocks and just do options, just because it seems like the potential there is to make more money. And, you can leave it in overnight and then pull it out the next day, which is what I like to do. I mean, I don't really like to keep my money online more than a day, but, yeah, I'd say mostly options.
Okay. And I'm curious, just because you're holding overnight, and stocks can gap down, which is if you're on the wrong side of that fence, then that's part of being a swing trader. But have you had any instances where you've been, hopping in at the late day, like you said you do, and then the next morning it gaps against you? Have you encountered any of that yet?
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. I got spanked by that just recently with Facebook. I think it was today. No, maybe it was yesterday. I'm not quite sure. I think it was yesterday, but yeah, I've encountered it where it's not very fun, but it's kind of funny because the few times that has happened to me, just based on the psychology of the chart, is it ended up recovering by the end of the day, which was kind of like, okay, well, maybe it was just pure luck or whatever, but the chart said it was going to go up, based on the technical analysis. And then, yeah, it gaps down and it was like, oh God, right? And then you're like, oh shit, maybe I should sell all this stuff off. And so a lot of times I did. I sold most of my stuff, but I held on to a couple, options, a couple contracts or whatever. And then it ended up recovering by the end of the day, to where, yeah, I still took a loss, but it wasn't awful, it was bearable.
Okay, so you've been caught in a couple of these. So when this event happens, because to be fair, sure you can have them also where they're going to gap in your favor, but
Mm-hmm.
the ones that don't go in your favor, I mean, are these like wiping away all of your wins, or are you still on a profitable trajectory? Because holding overnight is when it goes your way, it's going your way plenty enough to wipe away one of those times where it actually gaps against you.
Yeah, so that's kind of something that is a little frustrating. Being that I don't have the $25,000 in the market, or I'll pull money out when I do make profits. It's kind of moving sideways, which is a little bit frustrating because it gaps down, or it doesn't do what you want it to do, and then you lose your money, and then the next week it's way up, and you can wipe out everything in 1 week, and so I'm not sure if that's part of the learning curve or whatever, but that definitely can be frustrating.
So you're kind of just chopping along sideways now because when it does gap down, it sounds like it's doing enough damage to where it takes quite a bit to get just back to break even. Is that a fair assessment?
That is a fair assessment, which, yeah, I'm not afraid to admit it. It is what it is for me, and I'm hoping that it starts coming together more consistently in a profitable way. I mean, March was really good, but I had two instances where it almost wiped out everything, which was just unfortunate. But then it was like the next week I would make everything back and then some, and so I'd put some of that money aside. Um,
So
and
so March was profitable though for you, right?
it was overall,
Okay.
yeah.
But like you said, a couple of those instances did set you back a little bit, but not enough to where March went negative or anything. So you were profitable in March. I mean, well, congratulations. Some people would kill for just have a profitable month. So well done there. You're definitely making progress there. But Ches, I want to bring you in on this because I know you did a lot of the directional trading with options, and I think, well, I don't think I know you've diverted away from holding lots of things overnight. I don't. Can you just speak to this a little bit since I know you have experience in the past of kind of doing what Micah's doing at this point?
So Micah is doing it, obviously, he's still at the mercy of the market gapping against him at the same time. I didn't find, at least in his favor here, he is much better at spotting direction. I can tell just from kind of this conversation than I ever was. And I made maybe 10% of all the money I ever made trading options was directional. 90% of everything I made trading options was doing non-directional things like iron condors, strangles, straddles, things like that. So, that's all covered in the advanced options course. You guys could always look that stuff up as well. But that was me in particular. And the thing is that, as a swing trader, I know that sometimes it's going to gap against you, but what I was thinking, you said by the end of the next day, sometimes it had recovered. That's almost an intraday kind of, shakeout noise. Because at the same time, there's still noise on the daily chart. There's less noise, but there is still noise. You might have, breakouts and then it's going to retest that area. So, depending on where you put on your positions and stuff, sometimes it does take a couple days to play out. Now, if you are trading like Micah, though, and your long options, time is against you. Whereas me, when I was trading advanced options, time was kind of on my side, unless it was going against me, wildly. But yeah, I could just say this right now is that Micah's more in tune with the market as far as directional wise than I ever was, and I had to kind of keep it completely neutral for myself. But like I said, with his busy season come up, honestly, I would really recommend you kind of take a look at that because at the same time, with the advanced options stuff, and like this is not to be a sales pitch. This is honestly because we just kind of discern that Micah's downside is that when those losses go against him, it wipes out a lot of his winners. You can actually structure completely directional trades with advanced options with certain spreads and stuff like that. And if you did that, you could leave yourself open to say a $500 profit and leave your loss capped at $100. So if it gaps against you and the stock drops 80%. You could only lose $100, but at the same time, you still stood to make that $500 window or, whatever you're targeting. So that's all I'm going to say about that. You can still trade completely directional, but it might really kind of be helpful to kind of reduce that downside.
Yeah, and it sounds like we don't have to sales pitch Mike at all to take the course because you said, Mike, you already have plans to do the advanced options course, right? Regardless.
Oh, yeah. It's already paid for and everything. It's just a matter of time at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're not saying to tell him to buy it. Just a little context. ClayTrader University contains all the training courses that I offer. So he's already, that's what he meant. I mean, when he bought ClayTrader University, he already got the course. He just hasn't gotten to it in order to go through it. But yeah, I'll echo Ches. It sounds like, especially for your busy season, you can definitely structure things with options where a gap against you isn't going to hurt you nearly as much as, heck, in some cases, a gap in either direction, you'd say, I don't really care. It doesn't, whatever, that doesn't matter. So, but yeah, I'm glad that's on your list. I'll just leave it at that because I think that'll open your eyes to quite a few things. But at the end of the day, like we said, I mean, you were still profitable in March, maybe not as much as what you wanted to, but that's just, risk versus reward. There's always going to be risk out there, and the risk of what you're doing is, well, if it gaps against you, then it can hurt. So, but I guess looking at the time, and we still got a little bit of time left, but we do have to start to kind of wrap things up here a little bit. But what are some things, though, because we always like to talk about strengths and weaknesses. What are some things, though, that right now you think you're doing very well? I mean, we don't want to beat you up or anything like that, but what are some, like I said, what are some attributes, what are some characteristics that you would say, you know what, I'm doing pretty well in this? And then we'll talk about, what are some things that you still kind of want to improve upon?
I think I'm doing pretty good with my technical analysis, with going and doing my homework on the charts and, picking decent stocks and options to buy. Something I'm a little bit, I need to work on a little bit more discipline is maybe not positioning myself quite so big in some of these things, maybe using a little bit more discipline. And I've definitely been trying to do that and diversify into, several positions versus one or two positions in one or two companies. Those are kind of things that I think I need to work on.
Let me ask you this. So let's go through March. March, you were making money.
Mm-hmm.
You were making money. What was going on with your position size as March went on in terms of, each passing day? Did your position size start to increase?
Let's see. It was pretty consistent. And then I was looking at the chart with Apple, and I thought, oh man, it's going to keep going up. I noticed it was consolidating, but I didn't think it was going to last for the 8 days that it did. And so I positioned myself really big on it.
Ches, there it is. Position size got him.
It had to go my way, so I'm going to go, this will wipe all stuff out. Yep, position size is a common problem we experience with a lot of people that we kind of talk to.
Yeah. So, Mike, let's say you actually you did the normal thing. Because like you said, it had been consistent up until that point, position size, just same. What happens if you had just done the normal position size on that Apple? Would that have made a decent size difference in the month of March?
Oh yeah, it would have made a huge difference. I would have come out of March, with a lot of money.
Well, there we see, once at full circle here. Position size. I had a feeling when I asked that question, I'm like, I think I know what happened in March, because it's totally fine. Because I'll agree with Ches. You clearly can read a chart. You're very good at identifying direction. Heck, you were very good at identifying Apple's consolidation. You were just wrong on the length of the consolidation before it continued on up. But I thought, but position size? Oh, it always, the most basic form of risk management is, well, how much are you actually risking? How much money are you actually putting into a trade? And the one time, and that's what's crappy about the market, the one time you actually expanded your position size is the time it got you. And like you just admitted, had you just stuck to your normal position size, even though you were wrong, it would have still been a much different outcome. So, Micah, there we go. You're kind of wondering, I think that's part of the learning curve. Yes, it is. Position size. That's what got you that one trade, not because you were wrong. Keep in mind, listeners and you, Micah, it had nothing to do with you being wrong. It had to do with position size, because when you were wrong, well, it just bit you that much harder. Whereas if you would have been wrong at your normal position sizes, like you said, robotic, whatever, move on to the next ones. Does that make sense, Micah?
It makes perfect sense. And it was such a beautiful setup. It was that descending wedge, and it did. It when it finally went, it went big. But man, it was like, when will the bleeding stop? Waiting for it. And
that's just the way the market is. And sometimes you were right, you just weren't right in terms of the length. And going back to what the theta conversation and the world of options, in this situation, the way Mike is using them, taking too long for something to happen is going to hurt you. So, well, good. I don't know if we've had a few kind of live walkthroughs kind of discussing issues, but so Do you feel like now you kind of know what maybe to really pay attention to for the month of April here, as you're going to just keep position size the same, right? Are you going to kind of hopefully path your
Yeah,
here?
my position sizes are a lot smaller, and like I said, I'm doing more stocks or more options in different companies. I'm not just putting them all into one company, and so one might go up and one might go down, but for the most part, it seems like it's working a little bit better doing that.
Well, they are smaller, but are you going to keep them smaller? That's the question. Because, I mean, they could all be big right now, but if they're all big, well, then from a proportional standpoint, well, then they're all going to help you out as much or they're all going to hurt you as much. But
I'll probably keep my position smaller because I'm not.
But are you going to keep it the same? You're not going to all of a sudden start to expand or contract your position.
The important thing is the consistency of keeping it kind of the same for a while.
The same
because that's going to help you prove your track record.
Yeah, no, I think that's what I'll probably do is just keep it about the same until I make a fair amount of money and consistently, yeah.
All right. Well, if you're ever thinking about increasing your share size because you find this setup, I can't be wrong, it's so beautiful, drop me an email. I'm going to say, hey, remember that Apple time when you increased your position size because you thought it was, and remember what it did to much. So just drop me an email. I will gladly offer you, I will gladly rub some salt in that wound.
Perfect.
If that's going to keep your position size the same, which is definitely kind of, where you're going to want to head from here. But yeah, I mean, like I said, worst case, you still came out in the month of March profitable. So that is definitely a good spot to be in. So I guess as we start to wrap things up here, what sorts of things, going into the future here, and I know you said things you want to work on, but I mean, where do you see yourself in 6 months from now? Do you still see yourself doing these options, or do you want to get into maybe some other vehicle such as Forex or futures? Or, I mean, do you have any kind of longer term goals for yourself?
I'm not sure. I'll probably be in options for a while, and as I take the classes and it opens new doors, who knows? I mean, I could be into Forex or futures or whatever. I'm pretty happy with options. I'm not going to lie right now, and yeah, hopefully, it's in 6 months. Hopefully, it's a good fire season, and I can spend the rest of the year just kind of sitting back doing some trading, and hopefully it's profitable. We'll see how it goes, right?
Could you define good fire season? What exactly does that mean?
Well, so like if you see Washington and Oregon and they're just completely like tinder boxes right now and they're up in flames, and that's going to be profitable for me. I know that's horrible, but yeah,
so the more things burn, the better it is for you.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because are you the helicopter pilot that goes and dumps that stuff onto the fires?
I spend a lot of time dropping water on fires, yeah.
Okay, so you get paid per water dumpage. Is that the business that?
We get paid a daily rate, and then we get paid per flight hour. So if we fly 8 hours a day, we can have a pretty good day.
I feel like, Ches, there's a conflict of interest here, because if I was Micah, I would take gasoline into the forest, dump it on things, and then light a match. I feel like he can totally manipulate the market here if he wanted to.
No, Micah's driving a big, cold-powered truck, polluting the environment. He wants more drought season across the continental U.S. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. We joke about that, filling the bucket full of diesel fuel and going and dropping it on an existing fire.
That's funny. So, but all right. Well, I was curious. I heard good fire season. How exactly would that take? But that's interesting. Ches, we have now officially talked to somebody that flies helicopters and dumps water on forest. I mean, who haven't we talked to? I think is the question at this point in time.
All I know is that he's not an engineer, and that makes me happy because we always have engineers because you cherry pick them out of the group. But yes, helicopter pilot is definitely a unique one that we've had.
I don't know if we know that. Are you an engineer by degree at all? Nope. Shoot. All right, Ches, you were right.
Nice try. Nice try.
Engineer. But
gotcha. But obviously, we've kind of discerned and talked about some things that you should probably keep an eye on moving forward. And even though your account is kind of going up and down, I always say this to people is the first stage before being consistently profitable is break even. So you got to pat yourself on the back that you've gotten to that point already. But for once, I'm not going to let Clay steal my thunder here, and I'm going to lend you my time machine.
He has no idea this question. He does not know you have a time machine because he's never listened to a podcast.
Forgot about this. He hasn't listened to a podcast, so he can't.
So he's not aware of your
thievery. Yeah, he's not aware of
he's not aware of your just technological genius to invent a time machine. I mean, he's not aware of that either.
Yeah, so Micah, I do have a time machine. I know it's hard to believe, but we kind of keep it hidden here only to our podcast guests. Now, if I could lend you this time machine and you could go back to when you first started trading, what is one piece of advice you'd give yourself?
Just take the time to buy a course and don't just waste your money basically because you think all of a sudden you're an expert. Trust me, you are not.
I like that. If you think you're an expert, trust me, you are not. That could pertain, I think, to so many people, myself included. Boy, did I think I was an expert when I first got started, but I was not. All right, now what we do here, Micah. This is great. I feel like podcast one. He has no idea how we do things. Most guests, they're prepared for it. They know it's. But now we're going to talk just some fun stuff here, Micah. So I'm going to kick off the fun questions here. What is your favorite movie?
Favorite movie?
Yep.
Oh man, a Terminator. I don't know.
The first one or second one?
Both. Obviously, the first and the second ones are both amazing. I mean, I don't consider the other ones really movies.
First one's a classic. There's no denying that.
Definitely.
So what would you say is your favorite meal and dessert?
Oh, geez. I don't know. Dessert, probably ice cream. And then meal would
No, that's too ice cream. What kind of ice cream? We're not going to let you get off the hook that easy.
Oh, okay. I'd say probably mint chocolate chip. That's delicious. And then meal would be seared ahi. That's some good stuff right there.
Where's the best seared ahi you've ever had? Because you say you travel a lot, so I'd imagine you've had that at many different locations. Where's the best place?
I think the best place I ever had it was there's this it's kind of a funny story. I was in Washington for work, and we were down at Gig Harbor, which I don't know if you've ever know what that is. I couldn't find it on a map. That happens to me a lot. I'm in places where I have no idea where I'm at. And I had some there, and it was kind of funny. You ever watch that show, The Deadliest Catch?
I've watched a few episodes. Yep.
You remember the long time ago that guy Phil Harris?
I don't watch it enough to have any idea. But I know what show you're talking about.
Anyway, he ended up having a heart attack a couple of years ago and dying. But we were down there, and he was like blackout wasted, and it was funny watching him stagger through this restaurant. We were all eating, and he was signing autographs and stuff. Anyway, that's my story about Gig Harbor.
Nice.
Yeah.
What about hobbies outside of flying helicopters and manipulating the forest fire market? What do you like to do for fun?
I grew up rock climbing and snowboarding in Colorado, and I spent a lot of time doing that. But now that I'm a father, pretty much my hobby is hanging out with my kid. So don't have a lot of free time for going to the mountains anymore.
Yeah, I'd say Clay is probably well aware of that as well.
Yep, I understand, but kids are a great hobby, so
they're the best ever.
Yep.
Yeah. So, what would you say 3 words are that you believe should be associated with a successful trader?
3 words, I would say discipline, confidence, and research.
Oh, impressive. Research. I think everybody's used the other ones, but I was curious because a lot of people are like, I'm going to try to be fancy and I'm going to say something that nobody else has, but you actually still said something that nobody else had. Now, I want to research what? What do you mean by research? Are you talking about like go look at PE ratios and balance sheets and stuff like that? What do you mean by research?
Looking at the charts, looking at the daily charts and seeing the volume and just reading those candles. Like you said in robotic trading, those candles can tell you a lot.
It's kind of crazy. So there we go. Research, because most people think research. Okay, I guess who's the CEO and who's the CFO and what's their cash on hand and all that. But you're just talking about just go look at the chart because there's all sorts of information on the chart. So hey, are you going to be on the webinar tonight?
You know what? I've got to fly with this girl out here in Nevada tonight and make sure she's a safe pilot.
But so are you going to be on the webinar tonight? I mean, safety comes second compared to the webinar is what I mean. Come on.
We know you have a hotspot and a tablet or something, so
yeah,
you could just be sitting next to her on the webinar,
Yeah. No.
Yeah, so, her training can take a back seat.
Well, that's actually, I would say somebody else, a human life, the safety of a human life, I suppose is a good enough excuse to maybe not be able to make the webinar. But I know I've seen you on past ones, so you're definitely working hard. So with that, Micah, thank you very much for taking time out of the middle of you're in the middle of Nevada. So thanks for taking time out of the middle of Nevada in the middle of your day to hang out with Ches and I.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime, man. You guys are great. I appreciate the hard work you do. It definitely is worth it. You should charge more for your classes. I'm not going to
I swear nobody paid him to say that, but prices are now going up 200%. No, I'm kidding. They're not going up at this point. So anyways, for you people that are listening, I'd like to make a few requests. If you're listening to this on the website, please click that share button, leave us a comment. We do read them and we'll reply to them. So those little things are appreciated. If you're listening to this on iTunes or any of the other podcast players, leave us a review, subscribe. That way you can keep up to date on everything that we're doing around here. And like I said, any sort of click of the mouse in terms of a share or a like or a review, little things like that really do go a long way. So those would be appreciated. So thank you for hanging out with us, and we will see you back for the next episode.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the ClayTrader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit ClayTrader.com.